Alright, this is a cheap high-definition capture card, one of the likes of which you can actually order from China, usually for anywhere around $30 to $50 on eBay. I got this thing about 2 years ago, and it's been serving me pretty well. It records the input to a flash drive, and you do have the option of plugging a microphone or line input into this thing, and it does have a headphone output, which is really useful. The output will go up to 1080p at 60 frames, but it'll only record 1080p at 30 frames. If you want 60, you're going to have to switch your source over to 720p. But it also has component input, which I've been finding endlessly useful in my adventures to digitize old VHS tapes on a VCR with time-based correction built into it. Well, that was brought to a grinding halt because the power adapter decided to give out on me. And I can't really say that I'm surprised. Again, this is cheap crap from China, so this thing, basically the strain relief was not mounted properly. The cable came disconnected, but the red and black cables on the inside were still hooked up, more or less, so occasionally you'd bump it and it would come disconnected from power, but then it would be connected again. Well, eventually this thing just decided to stop outputting anything. The light still comes on, but I get nothing from it. So it does have the specs printed on here, so that's really helpful. Output is 5 volts at 2 amps. That sounds familiar. Here's a Samsung USB adapter that I got with the Galaxy S4. On the output, as you can see, 5 volts, 2 amps. Convenient. Now, this thing's also really helpful because it shows you that the output on this is supposed to be center positive, and some very crude testing with a multimeter has found that the red wire is actually center, so I figure I'll just gut a USB cable and just connect with that there. The only problem with this USB cable was that usually red is positive 5 volts and black is ground or negative in this case. Problem is that this USB cable only had red and white. However, when I hooked the multimeter up to it, red came out as positive, no surprise there, and white came out as negative. So I hooked that up to the black cable here, which is the negative one. Goes to the outside metal on this connector. So I'm hoping that this thing's giving me the right idea. I also did test to make sure that the black cable was negative, and it was. And I'm hoping that the pins match up on this thing. I don't think that there's any power other than a resistor going to the data pins on this thing, so the output that I was getting from the white cord on this should be what's supposed to come out from the black cord on any normal USB cable, at least one that's color-coded properly. So I'm going to go ahead and find my duct tape and cover these up so they don't short out against each other, because I know that shorting is usually not good for integrated circuits. And then after that, we're gonna give this a shot, and hopefully it doesn't go horribly wrong. I mean, it's not AC power that I'm dealing with. At the origin it is, but on the output it's DC power. But I'd rather not find out how badly 5 volts can cook you. Probably not very bad at all, but I mean, at 2 amps, who knows? Usually when I get shocked it's with things that aren't even anywhere close to a quarter of the current that this thing is capable of outputting. Actually, correction. The largest shock that I've received was 8 volts at 1.3 amps. It wasn't pleasant, but it was only for like half a second before I realized, hey, the camcorder's charger is plugged into my arm. Or touching my arm inappropriately. Fucking pervert. As you can see, I am great at this. I definitely don't do work in a manner that is prioritizing functionality over appearance. So let's plug this in and give it a shot. Okay. Don't mind the horrifying cable management here. Smoke test 1. Alright, nothing's caught fire yet. Alrighty, let's see. Power's gonna be right there. Alright, and now, for real this time. Smoke test! Hey, would you look at that? It actually worked. But the real question is, what happens when I run a video through it? What better place to find a video signal than through the Xbox One? Alright, I'm going to need to find an extra HDMI cable. I almost forgot for a second that the SNES Classic has a HDMI cable. Radio. This is the cable coming from the Xbox. We're going to assume that that's going to be the input. Plug that into the inputs. Plug this into the output. Turn the light off. And eventually here, if this thing still has power, yes it does. And we've got video. Wonderful. I'm assuming that I could probably plug a flash drive into this thing and we should be fine to record a little bit of test footage. What do you say? Copyright strikes? Never heard of them. Well, shit, it looks like it actually worked. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on so you can see what it actually looks like.